Today is the final homily in our four-part pro-life series, and I just want to give you some good news. There is a woman here who gave me permission to share. She revealed to me that she had had an abortion, but she's experienced Jesus' healing, and she actually thanked me for the courage to speak about abortion and also the tone of mercy. So that's really beautiful news. We intentionally try to focus on Jesus' mercy at the beginning. Now we want to focus again on his mercy at the end and really think about his mercy towards the marginalized. The goal today is that our hearts are touched so that we can all participate starting this Thursday in the 40 Days for Life campaign. As we've mentioned for the past 3 weeks, towards the end of today's homily, we're just going to show one video describing abortion and then 3 photos, very graphic, that show the reality of abortion. We've done this now for the past 3 years. We just need to have the truth known. So I'm just telling you now, so you've got warning, especially if you don't want your young children to see this. Close your eyes, have them look down. I will give you another warning before it comes, so you will not be caught off guard. You might remember this beautiful 2013 encounter between Pope Francis and an Italian man named Vinicio Riva. So there he is with his mother. And Vinicio has neurofibromatosis type 1. Now, most of us, if we were to see someone that disfigured, we would pull away. But Pope Francis reached out and touched him. And later, Riva said, he didn't think about whether to hug me or not. I'm not contagious, but he didn't know that. Let's now ponder how Jesus reaches out to the man with leprosy. A man with leprosy came to Jesus begging him, and kneeling said to Jesus, if you choose, you can make me clean. So leprosy, of course, is a terrible disease. It can really disfigure horribly, and back then there was no cure. This is why the first reading says that anyone who has leprosy has to stay away from others to avoid spreading the disease. It says, anyone who has the leprous disease shall wear torn clothes, and let the hair of their head be disheveled, and shall cover their upper lip and cry out, unclean, unclean. Such a one shall live alone with their dwelling outside the camp. I think preborn babies are also marginalized in the sense that we avoid them, our society avoids them, we don't defend them. And then I would think that women who have had abortions are also in a way marginalized because no one wants to talk about the pain, everyone wants to keep it silent. But by coming to Jesus, this man shows hope. He's going to violate the Old Testament law because he believes Jesus can cure him. And then kneeling is an act of desperation. And when he says, if you choose, he's showing faith. He believes Jesus has the power to cure him. And what kind of cure does he ask for? He's actually not asking for healing from leprosy. He asks to be made clean. So that's a ritual term. He wants to be ritually pure so that he can go back to worship with his Jewish compatriots. So can you imagine if like a Catholic had COVID-19 and said, I just want to be healed so I can go back to Mass. That's the spirit we're talking about here. Moved with pity, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I do choose, be made clean. Immediately the leprosy left him and he was made clean. Jesus has compassion. He touches the man. Now he risks being infected. Normally you would be infected, but Jesus uses his divine power to overcome it. So Jesus is perfectly clean, he's perfectly holy, and he's going to use that to overcome the man's uncleanness. Jesus sent him away at once, saying to him, see that you say nothing to anyone. But the man went out and began to proclaim it freely, so that Jesus could no longer go into a town openly, but stayed out in the country. Why does Jesus not want him to tell anyone about the healing? Why? He's afraid that people will misinterpret him, his mission. They will think he's a political leader. Everyone just wants a physical cure. That's not what Jesus came about. We've talked about that. So he doesn't want that misunderstanding. But the man is so excited, he starts telling everyone. And now, Who can't go into a town? Jesus. So their positions are reversed. So symbolically, what that explains is how Jesus takes the man's being ostracized onto himself. The man can now go to worship, but now Jesus has to stay outside. And sometimes that's what God wants all of us to do. If we're going to really help people, if we're going to overcome evil, we have to take people's suffering onto ourselves. So if we're going to tell people don't have an abortion, then we're going to have to take that suffering onto ourselves. How will we do that? So it could be by offering support, which takes extra work. You have to support women who are pregnant and they maybe can't handle it. And then also, we might have to put ourselves in a position where we're going to be mocked. So one of the great things about 40 Days for Life is no one's actually going to hurt us, but people might make fun of us. Well, that's what happened to Jesus. So you take on that suffering in order to help people. Many of us know this saint, Damien de Veuster, so Saint Damien. He was born in Belgium in 1840 and offered to be sent to the missions in Hawaii, not to work on a cruise ship. You've heard of that? When priests become cruise ship chaplains. So when I retire from St. Anthony's, I'm going to ask the bishop, can you send me to Hawaii? Because I think I feel a call to evangelize on the cruise ship. It's a tough job. Someone's got to do it, okay? So he didn't do that. He's age 24. He goes to Honolulu. He is ordained a priest 5 months later. And 9 years after that, he offers to go to the island of Molokai to work with some 800 people who have leprosy. St. Damien wrote that he saw in each of them a soul redeemed by the adorable blood of our divine Savior. If I cannot cure them as he did, at least I can comfort them. And through the holy ministry that he has given me, I hope that many of them, cured from the leprosy of the soul. What's the leprosy of the soul? Sin. Will go before his tribunal, able to enter the society of the blessed. And he wrote something similar to what we're talking about today. He said, I make myself a leper with the lepers to gain all to Jesus Christ. He gave them the sacraments. He helped repair their homes. He fundraised for them, and he advocated that they be given better medicine. 12 years later, he himself contracted leprosy. He went through a period of great desolation, and people started avoiding him. But 10 months later, God helped him overcome the desolation, and he wrote, the good God knows what is best for my sanctification. And every day I say an honest fiat voluntas tua, Latin for, thy will be done. 2 years later, he wrote that he was the happiest missionary in the world, and people started coming from across the world to join him in that mission. He died in 1889 at the age of 49. In a few minutes, we will show the pictures and video of abortion. So remember, if you don't want to see it, if you have young children, have them look down. It's in about 5 minutes, so you still have about 5 minutes. The images are really disturbing. They are heartbreaking. And what's really heartbreaking is it happens all the time here in Vancouver. So many. There is a study by Dr. Jacqueline Harvey that reported that upwards of 90% of people seeing these images had increased their negative feelings towards abortion. So these pictures show the truth, and it changes people's minds. Abortion is the number 1 cause of death in the world. And as we've done every year, we just show a chart. Now, before we go to the chart, this actually really helps us think about how bad abortion is. So I have a list of all these causes of death in the world, the most common causes. I want to see if I got and anticipated what you think are the most common causes. So if I ask you, what do you think are the most common causes of death? What would you say? You can tell me right now out loud. Tell me. We know abortion. Sorry, one at a time. You're really good. This is really good participation. I wasn't anticipating this. Drugs. I've got drugs. What else? Cancer. Got it. Heart disease. Got it. What were you going to say? Keep on coming. Car accidents, got it. Suicide, have it. Anything else? What are you thinking? If I say what are the most common causes of death, what are you thinking? Anything else? I can't hear you. Oh, mental illness? Oh, I don't have that. Well, I have almost all of yours. So let's just go through the top 5 that I have so far. Heart disease. How many people do you think heart disease kills in the world in 2023 throughout the world total? The answer is 17.9 million. Communicable diseases, not including COVID. How many did it kill last year all throughout the world? 12.9 million. Starvation. People, how many people starve to death every year in the whole world? 11 million. Cancer, 8.2 million. Smoking, 4.9 million. Let's just go through the rest. So we've got alcohol use, 1.8 million. AIDS, HIV, 1.6 million. Car accidents, 1.3 million. Suicide killed 1 million people last year throughout the world. Drugs, 600,000. COVID-19, 300,000. War, 200,000. Homicides, 100,000. Natural disasters, 60,000. Terrorism, 20,000. The Israel-Palestinian conflict, 20,000. Racism in the United States, 500 people. And boring homilies, 100 people have died. Has that ever happened to you? Like, you thought you would die, but you survived. It was close call. So if you add up all those numbers, it gives us 61.9 million deaths. And then abortion is 73 million. Now that's according to the World Health Organization. They are not pro-life. So we didn't stack the deck to make our point. There are various pro-choice organizations that confirm that number. So if racism caused that many deaths, that would be our number one issue. I would give a 4-part homily every year on that. And this is why the visuals of abortion need to be made known, because it's hurting so many people. Okay, so now we're going to show a 3-minute video describing abortion. Please look down, have your children just look down if you don't want to see it.
My name is Dr. Beverly McMillan. I'm a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist with 45 years of experience, and I've completed around 500 abortions. Today, I'm going to explain a first trimester suction D&C abortion, also called vacuum aspiration abortion. This is typically used up to 14 weeks of pregnancy. When the woman goes to the facility for the abortion, she will lie on a table with her feet in stirrups, and she will be administered local anesthesia. The abortionist will place a speculum like this inside the vagina and open it, allowing the abortionist to see the cervix, the entrance to the uterus. The cervix is grasped with a long metal instrument to stabilize it. A series of metal rods called dilators, like these, which increase in thickness, are inserted into the cervix to dilate it, gaining access to the inside of the uterus where the fetus resides. The abortionist then inserts into the uterus a hollow plastic tube with a hole in it called a cannula and attaches it to suction. If the embryo is small enough, the cannula can be attached to a syringe, and manual suction alone will remove the embryo and placenta from the uterus. Otherwise, the cannula will be attached to a suction machine. The suction machine is turned on and the abortionist slowly rotates the cannula inside the uterus. The fetus is rapidly torn to pieces as it is pulled through the cannula and tubing into a large glass bottle, followed by the placenta. Sometimes smaller embryos are pulled through intact. Occasionally, the abortionist must remove the cannula and pull out body parts that have clogged the opening to complete the abortion. Once the abortionist thinks everything has been removed, she will sometimes use a long metal curette to scrape the lining of the uterus to make sure no parts are left behind. An incomplete abortion can cause infection or bleeding. Once the uterus is empty and the bleeding is under control and all the instruments are removed, the abortion is considered complete. But before the patient leaves, the tissue must be examined to make sure the placenta and all the body parts are accounted for. 2 arms, 2 legs, a spine, a skull. The risks of suction abortion include perforation or laceration of the uterus or cervix, potentially damaging intestine, bladder, and nearby blood vessels. Other risks include hemorrhage, infection, and in rare instances, even death. Future pregnancies are also at a greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related trauma and injury to the cervix. As I said at the beginning, I used to do abortion. In fact, I helped to open the first abortion clinic in the state of Mississippi in 1975. At that time, I thought abortion was what women needed, and I was totally oblivious to the life of the child. But one day, I looked at the remains of a 12-week-old baby boy that I had just aborted, and I thought to myself, what is the difference between this little boy and my own 4-year-old son? I came to recognize that abortion doesn't just end a pregnancy, it kills an innocent human being. Now I am a pro-life advocate. I am proof that anyone can change, no matter who they are or what they have done. I invite you to join me and make a decision to protect the preborn.
Okay, before we show the next 3 photos, a warning. The next 3 photos are very graphic. They are of the remains of children from abortion. If you don't want to see them, please keep your head down now. It is terrible. This is law in Canada. So when you see them, just think that Canada supports this. A lot of people support this. Here are the pictures. Okay, thank you. So we have Lent starting this Wednesday. We have a duty to do penance for our past sins to make up for them with our love. So 40 Days for Life combines prayer, self-denial, and almsgiving into this one great act of love. So this is our way of reaching out to the marginalized. If this would be your first time doing it, we'll try to make sure that you are not alone. So just talk to the hospitality team to make sure you're in a big group of people, that you feel supported. Thank you to the 166 plus people who have already signed up. God bless you. Thank you to 40 of you who are doing multiple shifts. You're really quite amazing. You see the cards and the papers in your pews. The yellow cards are the sign-ups, and then the sheets show the empty spots. And we'll talk about that during the announcements. But when you're done filling those out, you can give it to the hospitality team. And let's now finish with God's mercy, with a beautiful story about healing after abortion.
I was 19 and was just about to break up with my long-term boyfriend. We were both away at college, had kind of fallen into a relationship very, very easily, very quickly, our freshman year. And the very last time that we had sex, we faithfully used the condom, but the condom broke. And so it was the beginning of that summer, and I was in a panic. I was away on full scholarship. I was always the good girl, and I did not want to tarnish that reputation of what people thought of me. And so pretty much decided for abortion. So we went to Planned Parenthood, and I remember being called back into a room and being asked to put on a gown. The doctor I didn't meet beforehand, and he had a mask on and hat, and he just told me to lay down, and I did. And I can remember feeling a little sleepy, but still very aware. I heard the vacuum suction machine as it was turned on. It was a horrible sound. And then I can remember him telling me, you're going to feel a little pain, a little pressure, and then it's going to be over. And as my stomach felt like it was being pulled out of my body, The nurse just squeezed my hand as I squeezed hers, and I don't remember trying to find her eyes, but I do remember wanting to see the canister of what was coming out of me. And, after being told it was just a blob of cells, and me not doing any research other than that, I just looked over and all I could see was a lot of blood, a lot of tissue. The next day I woke up and it really wasn't much better. I felt like there was a lot of discomfort and pain, but there wasn't anything I felt like I could do about it other than take a Tylenol. But I do know that next fall I went back to school and acted like nothing had happened. And that's what I did for a long time. As a matter of fact, I went on to work for Planned Parenthood for about 18 months. I didn't work on the abortion side, I worked on the contraceptive side. I think what really discouraged me was the revolving door of young women I saw who were young, bright, beautiful like me, but did not have any support system. Didn't know that they had other options. I think that really was the punch in my gut that this was not going to end. Me just dispensing contraceptives wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to help. So eventually I came to understand that was not God's plan for me. He did not want me in that industry long term, and he wanted to show me a different way. So he brought into my life a woman who just showed me God's unconditional love. And I was so grateful to have her speak life over me. And that was my, I think, my push to ask God for forgiveness for my abortion. And when I did, I felt immediately forgiven. But then I started working for a pregnancy resource center in Ohio, and I was so happy to be an abstinence educator. They even asked me to train to be an ultrasound technician. And immediately, in my gut, I said, no, I can't do it. That's when I realized I was forgiven, but I wasn't free. Not free from my own shame and guilt. So just as it so happens, we moved to Florida and I joined this wonderful church, and this church supported a pregnancy resource center. And within that was an abortion recovery program called Healing Grace. But I took the card and I thought about it for about a year or so. And then finally God nudged me and said, you know what, daughter, it's time. I've got something really special for you. So I picked up the phone and I called Healing Grace, and I can remember feeling accepted and wanted right away. I was told that the healing would be tough, but it would be freeing, and that was what I wanted. All of the anger and the bitterness that I'd been holding about my abortion, I'd never dealt with. Everybody else dealt with it because it exhibited itself everywhere in my life. But I had never dealt with it. And so I started that 8-week journey of forgiven and set free. And that is exactly what happened. It's been a blessing to be able to be a ministry leader now, and to share my testimony, because I really do believe that testimonies touch people. So I just am so grateful that my life was able to be turned around at the age of 59. He wants us to be healed. And so I just am so grateful that that was an offer he made to me, and I'm grateful that finally, after so many years of fighting it, I accepted.
That is the mercy we want to offer to all people. So Sylvia mentioned post-abortive healing, and one of the best in Vancouver would be Rachel's Vineyard. They hold weekend retreats. I was blessed to be part of one once, so I can really testify. Very well done, very beautiful, very healing. It's all about Jesus' mercy. He offers mercy to us. He wants to forgive all of our sins. He can forgive every sin, and we want to offer that mercy to mothers and to preborn children.